The analogue revival, so wrong on so many levels. Okay, so I thought I'd finished my series on the various revivals going on. Vinyl, cassette, CD, and those that I didn't cover but only mentioned. Shellac 78's minidisc, the iPod. But I've missed out on something that should have been glaringly obvious. A viewer's comment showed me the way. Some say that tape is actually best for tracking. Okay, there are a couple of ambiguities here. One is what we understand by tracking. I understand tracking to mean building up a multi-track recording one track at a time, or recording the basic tracks of a band, then adding overdubs one by one. I also understand it to mean recording audio, not MIDI. If it's MIDI, then I'd call it sequencing. It's a worthwhile step to clear that up so we don't have any unnecessary comment wars. The other ambiguity is tape. By tape, I mean professional reel-to-reel tape, not cassette tape. So yes, there are cassette multi-track recorders, but that would be another topic for another day. And perhaps another revival. So this video isn't about an analogue revival in general, but specifically an analogue tape revival. Let me start right now and say that there most definitely should not be an analogue tape revival. Not now, not ever, never. The days of tape have well and truly passed. Hang on, you might say. Surely tape will continue to have niche uses. Well, yes, there is one, and I'll cover that later in this video. But now I'm going to cover all of the levels on which analogue tape and any possible revival are so monstrously wrong. One thing. It wouldn't surprise me if someone pointed out that since I'm an old guy, I should have a nostalgic affection for analogue tape. No, just no. In this video, I'm going to talk about all the problems that tape has when it's working properly. I'm not going to cover faults. I'm going to describe tape at its very best and in the studio in normal everyday use. By the way, this is going to be a long video, or I might split it up into several videos because I have at least 20 levels to cover. I'm not kidding. Brace yourselves. Level 1, alignment. The only practical way I'm going to get through this is to deal with the issues in alphabetical order. So let's kick off with alignment. First, how much alignment does digital audio need? None. Absolutely none. Except in the rare case where a system thinks that a 48 kHz recording is 44.1, or vice versa. In which case you'll have to fix this manually. There are a number of alignments that a tape recorder needs. The heads need aligning, the bias needs to be set correctly for best quality recording, and the high frequency and low frequency response has to be adjusted so it's correct, both on record and playback. To make a recording, you'd first align the machine to a calibration tape, or test tape, as it's commonly called. You'd start by aligning playback so that the tones come out at the right levels. Then you would record some tones on blank tape and make sure again that the levels are correct and the frequency response is flat. In the middle of all that, the bias needs to be set correctly for lowest distortion, maximum output, and also some measure of protection against dropouts. What's bias? It's an inaudible, high-frequency signal that acts as a helper for the audio signal to get onto the tape without massive distortion. I could explain further, but I'm sure you'll be keen to do your own research if you fancy getting on board the analogue audio tape revival bandwagon. For playback of a tape recorded on a different machine, then hopefully the tape has test tones of different frequencies recorded on it at levels listed on the box label. You can then align the playback head and the high frequency and low frequency EQ. If it doesn't have test tones, then make your best guesses. I think I covered that one pretty quickly, although there are a lot of details I glossed over. Level 2. Azimuth. Level 2 concerns the physical alignment of the record and playback heads. Each head is a magnet with a gap between the pole pieces running vertically down the centre. I said vertically. This has to be correct, otherwise you'll lose high frequency response, and the other frequencies will be messed up too. If you're playing back a tape recorded on a different machine, the azimuth has to be set the same as the record machine, as judged by the test tones. Or if there are no tones, then tweak the head until you get the best high-frequency response. There are also height, wrap and zenith adjustments as well, but these would only be checked once in a while during routine maintenance. Level 3, cleaning and demagnetisation, including brown stain. How often do tape recorders need cleaning? Every day or every session? I like to demagnetise each time I use a test tape before I thread the test tape. Letting a test tape get magnetised isn't a good thing. You can get away with magnetising less frequency, but you are kind of getting away with it, unless you wait until you can hear that it's partially erasing your tapes. Once demagnetised, you can clean. Isopropyl alcohol and a couple of Q-tips will do the trick. Hopefully the machine is already so clean that any residue on the Q-tip is practically invisible. I mentioned brown stain. If you have this, you're in trouble. Normal day-to-day dirt and debris comes off easily. Brown stain seems to come pretty much at random, and it resists most of the common solvents. If you get this on your machine, I'm going to have to redirect you to Google, because I've had it in the past, I fixed it in the past, but I've forgotten how. Level 4. Cost. How much does it cost to make a digital multitrack recording? Well, let's say your multitrack consumes a gigabyte of data. No, let's say 10 gigabytes because you fluffed a lot of takes and you didn't delete them. Let's say it's a whole album with a dozen similar tracks. That's 120 gigs of data. I can buy a 4 terabyte hard disk for 100 quid. No, let's make it 200 quid and get a fast one. 4 terabytes can hold 33 albums at a cost of £6 each. I'm sure you can work out the cost in your local currency if you wish. But how much does tape cost? A quick search brings up a current price of around £300. That's for 30 minutes of 24-track multitrack recording at 15 inches per second. You'll need at least 2 for a full album. So digital costs £6 for an album. Analogue tape costs £600. Perhaps I don't need to say that this is an expensive format to run.